Good morning, everyone. Today we're doing something a little different. Normally, I would only do, 2 episodes of Pop Cross a week, but Fling Kong has apparently been waiting for me to check out Vigilance, so here we are. I have the entire first season pulled up and ready to record. The first episode will be coming out today, the exact same day you're watching this, and then the next video will be tomorrow. Oh, that's right. I'm gonna do every single one of them, get them edited and uploaded, and it's 17 videos, so it will only take 17 days. Anyway, let's hop in and finally watch Vigilance, starting off with Freya Sparks, the curse of I'll Be Happy Win.
Have you ever been at a point in your life where the only time you feel content was in the fleeting moments after waking up? When life hasn't sunk back into your awareness and you haven't fully remembered who you are and what your life is? Then, as it comes back in,
I've never felt
a
that.
feeling of quiet, persistent dread sinks in. But you just go on living as if this is how things have to be.
Sounds like depression.
That is exactly the place that Freya Sparks was in at 23 years old, despite from the outside seeming like she had everything she could ever want. You see, Freya Sparks just a few months ago had become the Global Vigilance League champion.
Hey,
She was
congrats.
the most famous person in the most famous sport on the planet, and her unique breed of electrokinesis powers and her infamous fighting style had
electrokinesis.
set her at legend
Okay.
status.
Whoa,
But she
legend.
couldn't enjoy a second of it. She still wasn't
Wait,
happy.
why not?
Despite being famous for the phrase, "I'll be happy when I'm the Global Vigilance Champion."
Well, according to him, a couple months ago, you just became the champion. So now that you've reached that goal, you should be free to do whatever you want with your life. If something isn't making you happy, find something else. Should be that simple. Well, and plus, and apparently in this world, people have superhuman powers. So what's stopping you?
Her journey to becoming the champion had started young. Both her parents were rarely around as they both worked long hours, but they lived very close to a community center dome with tons of kids programs. They put Freya into as many as they could so that she'd have a safe place to
Pretty
spend
family.
time when they weren't around, and she thrived in most physical activities. She was known for always wearing fun and flashy outfits while she played, sometimes just splashing paint across her clothes. She thought she may want to
Messy.
be a fashion designer someday, if sports hadn't taken more of her focus. By age 9, she was better than most teenagers
Okay.
at soccer, gymnastics, fencing, hockey, but she finally found her sport when her powers developed at the age of 10. Around 22.2%
10
of
years
people
old.
have some sort of superhuman physical abilities, though far from all of those people would choose to compete in tournaments, the act of which would grant you the label of vigilant. At first, Freya's abilities
Okay, weirdly enough, I am getting some My Hero Academia vibes from this. But then again, nothing new is technically ever made. We just take what we know, mix it up a little bit, and present it. So yeah, there's a lot of My Hero Academia vibes from this. There's only a fraction of the population that has superpowers. Something came into existence because of those powers, and only the people that partake in it can gain that song title, huh?
appeared to be just electrokinesis, which is a fairly common power to gain, but eventually it proved to be much more than that. Her electricity
Oh?
had two different modes that she could switch between. Her yellow electricity could be used as a projectile weapon and enhance the speed and power of her physical attacks. Her blue electricity,
Okay.
on the other hand, could create a field emitting 3 feet around her body that slowed the movements of anyone or anything that came into it.
Whoa,
On top
that's
of
useful.
all that, she developed B rank agility and C rank super strength, and that pairing alone would be enough to make her a contender to try her hand at fighting in at least the lower tier vigilance leagues. When she started fighting in recreational
like it.
leagues near her, people quickly began telling her how far she could go. She enjoyed the praises she got for her skills and natural abilities, so that, paired with her love of sports, drove her to competing in more and more competitive children's leagues, and quickly
Ooh,
catching
probably
the
not a good
attention
idea.
of scouts and agents from the higher ranks. By age 15, she became one of the 10 youngest people to ever be accepted into the American Vigilance League in the sport's 240 years of existence. Freya was
240
incredibly
years.
excited
Damn.
by the fame she was garnering, but soon found that along with the praises thrown at her, there was also plenty of hate. By 16, she'd started getting lots of criticism for her repetitive
I mean, that's just gonna happen, and regardless, but yeah, I can still understand getting so much hate when you're just trying to live, enjoy life, and all that. Really can put a damper on everything.
And boring fighting style. She'd wait for her opponents to come in close and wear them out by letting them try to hit her, with Freya slowing their movements, making it hard for them to ever land a blow. Once she'd tired them out enough, she'd switch her electricity types and go on the attack. Most of the time, this would lead to her victory. Freya found that despite the fact that most comments she read of her were complimentary and encouraging, she'd always get hung up on the more hateful ones. Though part of her accepted early on that maybe some of the criticism was valid. She liked putting on a show for people and was growing a bit bored of her own fighting style herself. So for a while, at age 17, she tried changing up her tactics, and found that she actually did have a lot of fun experimenting with new and creative ways to use her powers. But doing so would also result in her losing far more often. That would just bring on even more hatred and criticism from her fans and sponsors. Eventually, she spoke publicly about her
Freya, you gotta understand, you can't make everyone happy, so just make yourself happy.
Frustration over this on a popular podcast called Vigil Banter, admitting what had driven her to try changing tactics in the first place, and how it was hard to feel like she could never win with her critics. But saying all this just caused even more criticism to pour in. People called her a sellout for changing her fighting style just to appease people online, and others pointed out that she was famous and successful and said because of that she had no right to be whining about anything. It was heartbreaking to see, and she swore after seeing the response that that was the last time she'd ever open up and say something vulnerable on a public forum.
Doubt it.
Not long after, Freya essentially became like a shut-in. She trained, ate, slept, fought, and that was it. At one point, she decided to try working with a designer to help change up her fighting outfits, and had some fun trying to bring a bit of flash into her repetitive routine.
Again,
but her
make
agent
yourself
told
happy.
her that a consistent brand image was important for her still growing career, so she just gave up on that too. It felt like everywhere she turned there was someone ready to suck all the joy out of her life, so at a certain point it was almost as if she stopped trying to find any. She tried to just focus on improving and achieving more in her career, believing the more she won, maybe the happier she'd become. She told herself and others that she'd stopped caring what anyone thought of her, but in truth, anytime she would hear or read another attack on her online, she'd want to run and hide away from the world. By age 20, she'd not only risen up the ranks of the American Vigilants League, but had gone to fight in almost every invitational tournament around the world. The only one she'd been deliberately left out of was the unique invitational on the island of Unitalia. The tournament leaders there had publicly tried to goad her in changing her fighting styles, and if she did that, they'd invite her to the tournament.
Okay, I just want to clarify something, and that this was the first video on the playlist, so if it's not the first video chronologically, in universe, well, then I'm sorry, blame the playlist. So technically that'd be blame Popcross. Let's just keep going on.
But she'd seen how that had worked out last time she tried it, so she refused. Just after she turned 21, Freya made it into the American Vigilants League Heroes Cup. This was for only the best of the best, and making it to the top 5 in this tournament would qualify her for entry into the Global Vigilance League. Some fighters in that had been competing for longer than Freya had been alive. Freya tried to avoid interviews as much as possible in those days, but after qualifying for the American Heroes Cup, she was assaulted by a swarm of paparazzi, asking her questions she had no interest in answering. Through all the shouting, though, eventually a question stuck in her ear. Someone asked, "Are you happy with all your success?" She didn't understand why at the time, but the question felt like a knife in her heart. She leered at the man who'd asked and instinctively snatched his microphone away and angrily stated, "I'll be happy when I'm the Global Vigilance Champion." She shoved the mic back into his hand, pushed through everyone, and marched away. That clip exploded across the internet, with many saying she could do it and be the youngest to ever win it all.
And apparently,
as usual, it seemed impossible for Freya to ignore the people calling her arrogant and delusional, and saying that they didn't want the global champ to be someone with such a boring fighting style. Still, this became Freya's mantra.
Hey, she tried to mix
People
it up.
would ask her if she was happy just to hear her say the quote. She said it enough that, despite it having been something she'd said on a whim, she began believing it was actually true. She convinced herself it made perfect sense. She couldn't be truly happy all these years because she knew she'd always been really working towards the global champ status. so that must be the thing she needed to finally be happy.
Oh
She trained
no,
harder and harder
that's
than
not gonna
ever
be good.
before. Knowing the kind of vigilance she'd be going up against, Freya knew she had to perfect her ability to instantly switch between her two types of electricity. She wasn't even thinking about who she had to beat
So
in the
not a thought
American
about
Heroes
Switch.
Cup. Her
Okay.
mind was past that, on to her competitors in the Global League. The global champ at that time was a fighter named Speedy Kasi. He was a Kenyan fighter who had S rank super speed,
Oh,
meaning he could run
whoa.
at speeds approaching 360 kilometers per hour with incredible maneuverability. On top of that, he
Damn, is that
regularly
almost
trained
Mach?
against professional boxers and MMA fighters with power suppressant bands on, so even without his powers, he was a world class fighter. Even slowing him to a 20th of his top speed, which Freya could do when at full strength, wouldn't make him easy to take. Freya started mimicking some of Speedy's training techniques, using power suppressors herself. During those days, she didn't
That makes
exactly
sense.
feel happy, but at least distracted from her pain. She was focused on a goal and saw that there was a glimmering light at the end of a few dark years if she could just become the Global Vigilance League champion and become happy. She tore through the
Well,
American
let's
Heroes
see.
Cup and came out in the first place slot easily, but was of course asked, "Are you happy with this victory?" To which she gave her usual answer, "I'll be happy when." In the months leading up to the Global
Bum
Vigilance League
bum.
tournament, Freya barely spoke to anyone other than those she trained with. She'd slowly
I'm gonna call it now. That's probably gonna be the lesson at the end of the episode. The whole "I'll be happy when" cost.
developed problems with her body over the last year, joint pains in her elbows and hips that never seemed to go away, as well as a perpetual lump in the back of her throat that no doctor could tell her the cause of. They didn't affect her fighting, though, so they just became another thing she tried to ignore as the Global Vigilance Tournament began. As many suspected, Freya made it into the finals and went up against Kenya's Speedy Champ. He was a
Here we
gracious
go.
fighter, stating how impressed he was with her skills and determination. Freya tried to be polite back, but was too focused on the victory she felt she needed more than anything. When their first battle began, Speedy was able to get a barrage of swings at Freya, even through her resistance field. But she was
Speed's
blocking far more than
tricky.
anyone would have expected. On top of that, she had succeeded at making her ability to switch electricity types instant. So she did so and started landing blows on Speedy far earlier in their fight than she normally would, then switched back to defense to
Yeah,
slow
there
him
you
down
go.
some more. The global finals were a best of 5 match, and in the first two, Freya's more aggressive tactic would grant her wins over Speedy. In the third, though, he'd
we
get
go.
quicker at spotting her switch, and managed to land a few full speed hits on her in the fraction of a second she released her resistance field, giving him a win in their shortest fight yet. Because of that, Freya did not risk giving him another chance like it. She needed this win, not just to shut up her critics, but to finally be
It would
happy.
never shut them up.
Their
You know
fourth
that.
fight went on for hours. Freya just kept slowing him down, blocking his blows, staying on defense for as long as she needed to. Despite Speedy having some of the best endurance in the league, Freya saw that he did eventually start slowing down. Even then, she waited longer, letting his stamina drop more and more, before finally going on the attack herself.
Some
Speedy
people would probably
managed
call
to
it
get a
cheesy,
second
but
wind and
I
hold his
say it
own
works.
against her strikes, but not for long. Exhaustion got the best of him, and Freya Sparks knocked him out. She was
Winner!
finally the Global Vigilance League champion.
Congratulations.
On the winner's podium, with the whole world watching, she was asked, "So Freya, are you happy now?" Watching the clip back of her response, it's clear for all to see that Freya gets choked up and quietly mutters through tears, "Yes." Many think these were tears of happiness,
Finally.
having finally achieved an incredible lifelong dream. But in truth,
happy?
they were tears of grief. In the moment after beating Speedy,
grief?
she was
What?
ecstatic and felt truly happy. But it had faded so much more quickly than she'd thought. By the time she reached the podium, even with the world cheering her on, her only thought was, "I guess that's it. So what now?" The following
Whoa,
weeks were the
damn
worst
it.
she'd
That
ever
question hits.
experienced. She felt she had no purpose. She could train for the next year's tournament to hold her title and fight in more invitationals, but she couldn't see a point anymore. It hadn't worked.
I mean, you're finally the champion, so now you don't have to worry about fighting or being the strongest. Your training never hurts. Well, it's always good to, keep it up. But now you could do whatever. I mean, just asking, but when was the last time you went on a date, Freya? When was the last time you were just human? Oh, yeah, I guess human. You all are human, aren't you?
Freya was the global
Hard to tell.
champion, but she was not happy. She had accepted a few interviews for after the tournament before it had started, thinking she'd be more energized and ready to take them on, but she muttered and stumbled her way through them, totally drained of energy. She told people that she was happy now because she thought it was what people wanted to hear and that they'd call her ungrateful if she didn't. But the words always felt hollow. Some did start to
Maybe
notice
that's
her
the kind of all,
particularly
though.
disgruntled demeanor, but one in particular would finally be the lifeline that Freya needed. On her way home from training one day, despite being buried in a huge hoodie, a guy named Carter Sahayek spotted her and jogged up beside
Oh,
Freya.
yep.
He started by saying things she'd heard so many times before. He was a huge fan, was an aspiring vigilant himself. She was practically tuning him out. Until something he said struck her. As a fan, it's sad to see you so unhappy, and I'm sorry you're hurting so much.
Oh, shit, he
She
can read
stopped
emotions.
walking. Part of her wanted to just brush him off and repeat, as she had so many times before, that she was happy. But she didn't. He kept talking, saying, "It didn't make you happy, right? Or maybe for a few days or weeks, but getting what you thought you wanted, becoming the global champion, it didn't give you any lasting happiness, right?
Not even
But that
close.
doesn't have to mean that you're never
Not even a
going to
minute.
be happy." She continued to just stand there, not responding. Carter continued, "See, the most sinister thing that depression does is make you think that you've
I was right! I knew it! I called it! She has depression! Ha ha!
never been happy
Damn
and
it.
never will be again. But that isn't true." That sentence practically made her knees buckle. No hit from Speedy or any other opponent had ever hit her like that. Carter went on to say, "I know you don't know me and have no reason to trust me, but I believe I can help you learn to be happy. I've learned firsthand myself that happiness isn't something you gain by winning something or making lots of money or finding a romantic partner.
Exactly.
It's a skill that you can get good at, just like how you learned how to fight. And part of the problem is that you've been telling yourself for so long, you'll be happy when. So you've trained your mind to think it can never be happy right now. But just because you've wired that into your head for
Exactly.
a while, doesn't mean you can't rewire yourself to think something better." She felt like breaking down right there, but a part of her felt like this had to be some kind of scam or trap or trick, so she
I don't think it
asked,
is.
"What do you want from me?" His response? "Just to spend time with you. I'm a firm believer that you become more like those you spend the most time with, so my hope is that by me being around you, I'll become a better vigilant, and by you being
Oh,
around me and learning some of the things I've learned about happiness, you'll become a much happier person. I can't say I've been
okay.
through the same things you have. I've never been world famous or famous by any stretch. But I have been deeply unhappy before and looked for the love I thought I needed outside of myself. It's not a fast process to retrain yourself to be naturally happier, but I do know that anyone can do it." She stared at him, looking for any hint of hostility or deception, but felt only warmth and hope. Still, she couldn't bring
He's a
herself
kind
to
man.
express anything she was feeling. He pulled out a slip of paper and handed it to her. "This is my phone number. Take it, call me, text me, or don't. It's up to you. I won't bother you again if you don't want me to, but just do me one little favor. Think about a few moments when you've been the happiest in your life, no matter how long ago they were. Feel those feelings again, and when you wake up
He's got
tomorrow
a
in the
point.
morning, first thing before checking your phone or getting up, just set yourself back in that state of joy. Do it for 10 or even just 5 minutes and see what kind of path that sets your day on. Okay?"
This
She
guy's
gave
got
a
a
very
point.
slight nod.
Damn.
He
Is he a
smiled so
therapist?
warmly and genuinely that it almost hurt her as he said, "It was very nice to meet you, Ms. Sparks. I wish you all the happiness you deserve. And you deserve a lot." It was only 6 in the evening, but Freya went straight to bed after getting home. Her mind kept throwing thoughts at her about how this guy was probably trying to manipulate her or just wanted to hook up with her or something.
I don't think
None
it's
of that
that.
felt true. She started doing what he said, thinking back to her happiest memories. At first, it felt hard to find any, but soon enough, they did come in. Some were of her making new costumes and outfits to wear while she fought. Some were of her trying new fighting tactics, and some were even of her training for the Global Vigilance tournament after she'd won the American Cup. They'd been
Yeah,
fleeting and
exactly,
she almost
see?
hadn't even noticed them, but when she was learning new fighting skills, she realized that there had been little bursts of true happiness from being in the moment doing the sport she loved. That night, she didn't remember when she fell asleep, but when Freya woke up in the morning, a few negative thoughts started spilling in. But she did as Carter had said. She set herself back in those happy moments and felt those same
Good job,
feelings,
Carter.
almost as if they were a wave of warmth going through her body. It was as if she was discovering a new superpower. Even though the events had been years ago, she was feeling that same happiness now. It was hard to maintain as her brain kept throwing more and more negative thoughts at her, but she did her best to keep focused on the
That's how
happy
you do
memories,
it.
and soon realized she was actually a bit excited by the idea of just designing some new Vigilance outfits now, whether she actually got to wear them in a tournament or not. An unexpected scene even flashed into her mind. It was like she was in a
Oh?
calming white void with her younger self, and young Freya gave her older self a big hug and said, "It's about time you came back."
Yay!
After that,
Oh, why
Freya
does that make
tuned
me
back into the
smile?
room around her. She got up feeling good. It wasn't an explosive, enthusiastic happiness, but it was better than anything in recent memory, and she did feel like she just tapped into a new skill. It did feel similar to starting to learn a new fighting style.
Happiness.
She wasn't good at it yet, but she had hope that she could get good. Freya went straight to her phone to text Carter, not realizing yet that she was starting a lifelong friendship. Despite being 23 years
So
old and
nice.
having achieved so much, Freya Sparks still considers that to be the day when her life truly began. The day she chose to start learning the skill of happiness.
Boom, boom, boom. Oh, that is actually a pretty damn Paulson episode. I mean, I even checked it. This was literally only a one-alt. Just one alt, not even technically a full-on story, but a glimpse into her background. Okay, let's see if that actually is a lesson. Or anything.
I hope you enjoyed and were inspired by the first episode of Vigilance, and there are 2 other episodes.
Okay, this is the first episode. So it looks like it went this one, and this one to make episode, to combine and make episode 1.
Episodes up now at the same time this video has come out. One on Carter Sahayak, who appears in this story, and one on a kid named Agama Knight from the island of Unitalia, where people get their...
I guess I'll go ahead and call it a stop there for now. Oops, sorry, hit the mic. Anyway, thank you all for joining me in today's episode. I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of you tomorrow when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.